South Africa.
Welcome back. The time is 3 minutes before the top of the hour, and you're still tuned in to Salam Media with myself, Salado Makwidiri. And this morning, we'll be turning our attention to South Africa's second quarter crime statistics, which were recently unveiled by Police Minister Senzo Mchunu. While there's encouraging news of declines in murder, sexual offenses, and robbery rates, the rise in commercial crime, attempted murder, and assaults presents a sobering reality. But notably, the scourge of organized crime and economic criminality continues to strain South Africa's law enforcement capacity. And joining us to unpack these numbers and their implications and what they signal for the future of crime prevention in the country is Professor Kholofelo Rakubu, a criminologist with expertise in crime trends and law enforcement strategies. Prof, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you giving us your time this morning.
Good morning to the listeners.
I think first and foremost, your initial reaction to these stats. Do you see this as a step forward in addressing South Africa's crime challenges, or there's a devil in the detail, which does reflect the true lived realities of South Africans on the ground?
My initial feeling was that the stats does not correspond or talk to the crime landscape in South Africa. They have highlighted the decreases for the past 3 months, and I question lack of a strategy. How did we arrive at that decrease? In the absence of strategy, in the midst of issues with crime intelligence, issues with forensics, issues with the intelligence forensic and also community-led policing, right? Now, we cannot even take the decrease seriously because one should always understand that obviously a particular docket might have gone missing, a particular victim might have decided not to report, or a particular case is still hanging and has not been thoroughly captured because of long-standing issues within the SAPS or law enforcement, even the criminal justice system as a whole. So now this just suggests that criminals in South Africa are still having a field day. They're still enjoying, they're still having more rights because, like I said before, our policies in particular are still more offender-centered. The decrease must be questioned, highly questioned, particularly with rape in a highly violent society. How did that happen? What was utilized as a strategy? The minister said it is through community collaboration. Community collaboration has never worked anywhere in the absence of functional crime intelligence. So is this the first time that is working in South Africa? Is this the route? And is this decrease shaping or giving us a different light? My answer is no. At the moment, the crime stats does not even inform strategy because for quite some time we've been having more increases and lack of strategy, poor response, lack of resources, issues not being resolved. The issues with Criminal Procedure Act, for example, still standing, inconsistencies that were identified within Section 49. There was not even rush from the government side to ensure that that is attended to effectively as they understand crime landscape and the implication of this crime in South Africa, because Section 49 is riddled with inconsistencies and ambiguities that has given more powers to offenders than police officers. That is why there has been multiple questions and debate around the KwaZulu-Natal response to utilization of force when effecting arrest, because now the ambiguities and inconsistencies in Section 49 suggest that one must utilize force, but does not even specify what is a reasonable force. So whatever force you use is still it still has to be questioned. As much as we're questioning KwaZulu-Natal's response, we're saying they are trigger happy, and now that is a death approach. We don't understand why should they kill these offenders, because of long-standing issues in the policies. That now, how do we then arrive at a decrease? Was it a strategy in place, or was it due to capturing? And again, an examiner cannot examine self. SAPS is responsible for this crime set. Obviously, a particular picture should be painted. That is why I'm very skeptical. I don't even understand how rape in a highly violent society has decreased.
I think you make quite an important point there. The fact that an examiner can't examine themselves. But another thing that you mentioned is the reaction of the KZN SAPS and how that has been under scrutiny. One thing that the minister made mention of is the murder of police officers. There's been around 17 police officers during the quarter. Is this alarming? And what does this statistic reveal about the risks faced by law enforcement and how they, can be protected or be improved when they are out in the field?
One, the murder of police officers has been there for quite some time, and the issues around the Criminal Procedure Act that I've just highlighted perpetuate such. And how they can be protected is the eminent review of Criminal Procedure Act, where issues around search and seizure, issues around effecting an arrest will be effectively attended to. Like if now Section 49 is riddled with ambiguities, it suggests that as an officer, you are supposed to be shot first before you can even react, because it says utilize reasonable force. So it's between you and the perpetrator to now determine what is reasonable force. An AK-47 in the arms of an offender is not reasonable force. That offender must not be down. An officer must be down. And offenders understand that loopholes very much so, because crime has evolved. Even the kind of an offender we have lately has tremendously evolved. They don't run when officers are coming by. They shoot first. Now, that suggests a paradigm shift in crime response, a paradigm shift in the arrests, because now you are met with criminals that will not even think twice to take life. So the matter in KwaZulu-Natal under scrutiny, it is due to long-standing loopholes, not only Section 49, your search and seizure, because if accessing a warrant, for example, if as an officer you are looking for a weapon and you go with a warrant stating that weapon to be a knife, and when you arrive there you find a gun with blood, you cannot touch that other object that is not stipulated in the warrant. You must go back and apply for a warrant to come back and touch that other object with blood that might assist with your investigation. The stupidity there is, do you think an offender will now keep that object there where you saw it for you to go and get a warrant and come and get it? So an offender understands that loophole very much so. And I'm still saying, our policies are more offender-centered, because you take a decision to commit crime, to kill, for example. The very same state is supposed to utilize its resources to ensure that they rehabilitate you and take care of you. What about a victim? A victim will have to end up becoming an offender, because at some point our justice system is not well equipped or well resourced to take care of a victim. A victim will have to fend for themselves while we try to rehabilitate you in conditions or institutions that has issues with overcrowding and resources and lack of manpower. And then now we take you back to the very same community. You're going to kill more just like the Lusukisiki massacre, which has elements of recidivism, the perpetrators that were in prison or it was orchestrated in prison, which is still under scrutiny or debate to determine who ordered the hit in Lusukisiki. But there are elements of recidivism because a particular individual whom the state thought they have rehabilitated have proved that the system did not do much. The person did not change until our policies are on par with an understanding of an offender we have that will take a decision without even thinking twice, because our criminal justice system is too lax. There are loopholes, and the policies are not on par with the crime landscape as yet. Imagine the very same Criminal Procedure Act was written in 1977, which had in mind a particular offender that was very obedient, that was very relaxed. Now we have a different one. We still have to apply and follow the Criminal Procedure Act. While more offenders have evolved, crime have evolved, landscape has evolved tremendously.
And also crime has been, interchangeable between different countries, as we see, the flow of illicit goods and, just practices across South Africa. But just in closing, what are some of the specific areas should the government prioritize to ensure a somewhat lasting impact on crime reduction across the board?
The state should work on issues with crime intelligence. We should not be found wanting. Your Lusukisiki massacre should have been projected long before. 2020 July unrest or 2021 July unrest should have been projected long before. And an offender understand that loophole. Now, issues with our crime intelligence. Remember, at some point it was moved to presidency. And the minute it was moved to the presidency, they lost so many skills. They lost so many staff and so forth. Then and it has been politicized at some point because it was moved to the presidency. Now we question the independence in that state, because at some point it has to go back to its glory days. It has to be independent and do its job. It has to be built up to assist with crime intelligence, because we can have visible policing, we can have community-led policing, but a critical arm is the utilization of intelligence. And one critical aspect that I overlooked is utilization of technology in crime prevention or crime control, because as crime evolves, even the technology in dealing with crime should understand that evolution. We cannot police like we're policing in 1994. Once the state has a thorough understanding of the strategy in place, because they have introduced a whole of government, whole of society approach. But one questions whether they have enough resources to see fruition of that whole of government, whole of society approach. In that, what are repercussions should a particular department or institution neglect in its mandate in crime prevention? The minute you don't have such, each department can interpret a whole of government, whole of society approach. Because in this regard, especially with South Africa, we have socio-economic issues that perpetuate level of criminality, and that is beyond the police capabilities, right? So a particular sister department should see to it that as you plan economically, you must also have in mind that you have a role to play in crime control or crime prevention and control. So the minute you have an approach or a strategy in place, but you don't pump the necessary resources to ensure that it is functional, then we are going to move in circle. We are not going to even realize the 2030 NDP plan with regard to ensuring a safer South Africa. Instead, we are heading towards a different South Africa that we did not have in mind when the NDP was introduced. So we must go back to drawing board to understand the kind of policies we have, and to what extent do we implement or realize the implementation of the tenet of any approach that we bring to board, because we have a history of reproducing approaches, just like your 1996 National Crime Prevention Strategy. If one zooms into the whole of government, whole of society approach, it still has has elements of the National Crime Prevention Strategy, which failed. The 1996 one failed because as it mandated all government spheres to have a role, to play its role in crime prevention, it was like putting a ball in the center of a court and ask each department to kick in the right direction, yet you do not specify what is the right direction. Each department kicked anywhere they felt is right. So now, even with the whole of government, whole of society approach, it still talks of local government, yet it doesn't even talk of the repercussion should a particular municipality not do as the prescript suggests that they should do with regard to having safety plans, with regard to leading in crime prevention within their areas of jurisdiction. So we cannot proceed because we just copy and paste and don't even provide necessary support and resources to realize that the approach works, and we do not conduct thorough research to understand what is it that South Africa need. Resources, repercussion, because we have history of politicizing crime response. Crime response is 5 years as per a political appointment. Then the minute they leave with all the resources. So we have to start afresh. Then we should move to a direction where we separate politics from crime prevention and control.
I think something very, very important, separation of powers, something that we struggle very much with here in South Africa. Professor Rakubu, we're going to leave it here for now. Really, really appreciate you giving us your insights. I think they were very, very valuable, and they paint a different picture to what the government is trying to sell us.
Thank you so much.
There you go, Professor Rakubu, the criminologist, and giving us, I think, very, very valuable insights. I think one mention that is very, very important is the fact that crime is an ever-evolving challenge, and we can't have a similar approach when the criminals, the masterminds themselves, they are literally running circles around law enforcement because they're evolving. We still have policies which are designed for the 1970s, but these criminals are now using artificial intelligence, AI, and all sorts of new and almost dynamic kind of enforcements that make sure that they get away with the crimes, and South Africans bear to suffer their might. We are literally living at their mercy. So the crime stats are out. Senzo Mkhunu there singing praises for the men and women in blue. You have according to the government, declines in murder, sexual offenses, and robbery rates. But there's also been a concerning rise in commercial crimes, attempted murder, and also assaults. The question we're asking is, are you feeling safer as a South African? Do these stats reflect your lived reality on the ground? You can give us a call on 01168000355 or send us a WhatsApp on 0617660355. We're going to take a quick break. We'll return after this.
We are here in the middle of a Zahra neighborhood. The whole neighborhood is already destroyed. More than 17 towers are down. Here, as you can see, the firefighters trying their best to help. The people are still under the rubble. A lot of the people.
Join Hamza on his exclusive South African tour as he shares his personal experiences, never before seen footage, and powerful insights on the ongoing genocide in Gaza. This is more than just a talk. It's an invitation to witness Gaza through the lens of Hamza Sha'alan. Don't miss this opportunity to meet the photojournalist who brought Gaza's pain and perseverance to the world in its darkest moments. Follow Salam Media on social media pages for more on this tour and be part of a